Hi, I'm Dr. Lance Von Stade. As a chiropractor, a lot of people come into our office in pain, suffering, in some type of disease process, or having a symptom that is really difficult for them to deal with, and it's hard for them to see the big picture of health. So what I wanted to do today is explain a little bit of how you can step out of that, how you can see the big picture of health, recognize that stress is the major contributing factor, 3 different types of stress, how the 4 pillars of health can contribute to building resilience to stress, and how chiropractic care can have a positive influence on the 4 pillars of health. So a lot of people will come into our office in pain, experiencing a symptom or some type of disease process, and they stop there. Their first question and only question oftentimes is, how do I get out of pain? If they don't recognize that this is an effect and they don't look for the cause of that pain, then they may not be listening to it as a message system from their body telling them to change something. The cause of this pain is oftentimes a dysfunction of some sort. And this is where a lot of healthcare providers can come in, help to diagnose something, find the cause of that, but they often stop there as well. And the problem with a healthcare provider is they are providing the health. We want you to be experiencing higher levels of health by gaining higher levels of question to be asking yourself and participating in this process. When you start to look for higher levels of questions, you'll start to ask, why is there a dysfunction? When you recognize that that dysfunction is actually an effect as well, and there is a higher cause, this is where in our culture we see the rampant presence of stress. So stress comes in 3 different forms. You can say thoughts, traumas, and toxins. You can say physical, emotional, chemical. You can break each of these out into a macro trauma or a micro trauma as well. So a lot of people will have motor vehicle accidents, and that is obviously a macro trauma, especially if it's high velocity. It's a lot of impact, a lot of stress to the body. But you can also have micro traumas of physical stress. This is sitting in class. If you're a student sitting at a desk all day, maybe even just a little bit of a fender bender, okay? But we'll say sitting. Emotional macro trauma would be like death of a loved one. This is a big blow to the mind. Or you could have a micro trauma, which if you're a student, it might be finals. If you're a parent, it might be your kid throwing a tantrum and you're running late, you know. So we'll just say kids in general. Arguably a macro trauma sometimes. And then chemically is what you're eating. So if you have a macro trauma chemically, this is food poisoning. You're getting toxified. But your micro traumas are very common in our culture, and these are a major contributor to inflammation. These are processed food-like substances, whether that's a Twinkie or McDonald's or a carne asada burrito that came from God knows where. Okay, we'll say processed food-like substances. Now, oftentimes in the media, you'll hear about stress reduction. So go ahead and just decrease the stress in your life, and then we'll move on. And that is not going to happen. That is maybe an effective and efficient method that someone can do by going out on the weekend and relieving some of their stress. However, what happens on Monday, it all comes back around. That's not a sustainable method. And I know firsthand that stress is not going to be decreasing in my life. I have an 11-month-old son, and as he gets older, I already know from my parents and everyone else telling me, like, there's going to be PTA meetings, there's going to be sports, there's going to be crazy amounts of stress. So what do we have to do? If we don't want our health to be deteriorating over time as our stress increases with new jobs, new opportunities, we have a choice to make. We can choose to increase our resilience. And there's 4 pillars of health. And these are the 4 pillars that you'll see all over the place. These are ubiquitous. These have been used for decades, centuries, millennia. And this is how people eat, move, think, and recuperate. Okay? By doing these 4 things effectively, efficiently, and sustainably, you're increasing your resilience to stress and foregoing or avoiding with more efficiency the cascading effects down to pain, sickness, symptoms, and disease. Where chiropractic care comes in, this is, for me, the most fun-filled, loving activity of my day because I get to participate in this place. By giving people adjustments, removing interference between their brain, their body, and their environment, they're able to perceive more of life. And this has a positive impact on the ways people eat, move, think, and recuperate. Eating, when you get adjusted, there is a decrease in your sympathetic nervous system tone, which is your fight or flight response. A lot of people live in this stressful situation. They're perceiving constant fear and sources of stress. This, you cannot rest and digest in this situation. When you get adjusted, it increases your parasympathetic nervous system tone. This is your rest and digest center, so it helps with eating. Movement quality has been shown in crazy amounts of research that when you get adjusted, it stimulates mechanoreceptors, decreases an interference from the brain's ability to perceive where that joint is in space. So now the brain can coordinate the joints of the body so you have increased movement quality. And when people move more comfortably and more efficiently, they move more often. So increased quality and quantity of movement. The thinking component is, yes, someone comes in pain, oftentimes when they get adjusted, they feel better. That's a very quick response oftentimes. So they might have a decrease in the perception of stress because of the removal of pain. However, there's so many other ways when you feel more connected to your body, when you can accurately perceive your environment through your 5 senses, which are increased when you have an increase in proprioceptive input to the brain, then you experience more accurate information and you can build better and accurate strategies to get your needs met. So it helps with thinking. One of the biggest testimonials we get on day 2 after someone receives their first adjustment, we'll give them a call and check in, and oftentimes we hear, I just had the greatest night of sleep of my life. So recuperation is influenced by getting adjusted. So chiropractic care, the reason I love it so much is it's influencing positively the ways people eat, move, think, and recuperate. The 4 pillars of health that help to build resilience against the stresses of life. And not only when you build resilience to stress do you avoid the cascading pain, sickness, symptoms, and disease, but you're able to transform stress from a destructive force in your life and turn it into a constructive force. Do you get stronger from working out? No. Dr. Paul Walton often says, you get stronger from recuperating from the trauma of working out. And it's the same thing when you can recuperate because you have resilience. And you recuperate from the traumas or the micro-traumas of the stress in your life, you grow stronger. You build an increased capacity to serve and love those around you, and you get more life per moment. So thank you for listening. If you're not already signed up or subscribed to our channel, feel free to do so. We'll be sharing out and breaking out each of these smaller sections over the coming weeks with free videos. If you have questions or comments, feel free to feed into the community. We love you. Have a great day, and take care.